Hello all, very good evening. Online students, am I audible? So today we'll wrap up unit related to family, and then tomorrow hardly one lecture is required for unit 2.5 kinship. Then I'm just sharing what will be the schedule. So I'll be covering linguistic anthropology, and then I'm planning to start with paper 2 this time. Actually, usually what I do is, I started with once social culture is over, I start with physical anthropology. But I feel this time I'll be doing paper 2, caste, village, and tribes, and I'll shift physical anthropology to the last. Okay. So the topic is impact of feminist movements on family. What is feminism and impact of feminism on family? It is means these type of questions, they are coming very frequently. Means 1 year they will ask industrialization, the other year they might ask urbanization, the third year they might come up with globalization or feminism, and so on and so forth. So first we need to understand how feminists they view family. Okay, what's their understanding of family, and then we'll understand how they have impacted feminism. Feminism has impacted family as a whole. Okay, so first you need to understand that feminism is based on the ideology that gender is socially constructed. Okay, and since gender is socially constructed, the major agent for construction of gender, they say it's family. Okay, they are the one. Family is the biggest villain who basically teaches women to inculcate feminine value system, and it teaches the male to inculcate the masculine value system. Not just this, they basically are family is the one who basically socially conditions the female that there is some ideal behavior that should be followed by them in order to be acceptable in the society. Without that ideal behavior, you will not be considered to be dignified. You will not be considered to be acceptable in the society. So family creates this ideal images that the ideal image of or ideal role for the woman is that of a wife, that of a mother. Okay, so if she is not behaving like that in that scenario, she is not considered acceptable in the society. She will not be respected in the society. So this idea is created by family conditioning of women. And second, it also subordinates women by assigning subservient roles to female. So subservient jobs will be given to the female, and male will be given superiority complexes that you are superior, you are not supposed to enter into the kitchen, you are not supposed to wash the dishes, or you are not supposed to clean the house. So this is how the gender construction agent family works. Okay, now there are different approaches to feminism. We have already seen a brief of it. The first one is Marxist feminism. So this feminism believes that family as an agent supports capitalists. Okay, it's a tool created by the capitalists to maintain their position. Okay, the bourgeois class. So this idea, there is a scholar named as Margaret Benston. So she says that family, through family, the capitalist class, they are able to impose hidden tax on the wage earner. It's the family through which that hidden tax is imposed. How? In two ways. The first one, by taking away the bargaining power. Okay, you do some X work and you have to be paid some Y amount of money. But what happens? That person, the capitalist class, might be paying you half of what you actually deserve, but you cannot bargain because you have a family. You cannot stay jobless. You have to pay the money for your children's education. You have to feed your family. So that is how it's a hidden tax, because it has taken away the bargaining power of the labor class. And second, it is the family that is creating labors by reproduction and also conditioning the labor for which it is family that is creating the labor and conditioning the labor. That is creating through reproduction and through socialization. They are conditioning the labor. Education kara rahe hain, and then they are preparing their mindset that you have to grow up and take some good job by which you will be able to earn the money. Okay, so this is how kind of family is a hidden tax. Means for all these things, the labor class is not getting any extra money, but all these things that the family is doing is kind of supporting the capitalist class. Okay, and here in this case, it's due to the capitalism that females are getting exploited. We have talked about this earlier. Okay, second is radical feminist. Okay, so this is radical feminist. They say that females are exploited not because of the capitalist class, but by the unequal relationship between male and female. It's the male who are the culprit. And first form of stratification started in the family that was related to male and female inequality. Remember Shula Smith Firestone and the idea of the biological family. You remember this? Very silent faces. So the biological family is how she explains that how due to the biology of the woman, she depends on the male, which actually creates superiority complex in the minds of male. So women, she due to menstruation and due to reproduction or pregnancy, she becomes dependent on the male. She's dependent. She cannot go to the office. She cannot go to the work. And during pregnancy also, she needs a big time break. And in that time, the male will be supporting her. Okay. Plus the large time that is taken for growth of the child. So in that time also, the woman is dependent on male, and this creates a superiority complex. So the major reason for exploitation of women is her biology, which makes her dependent on male in a family, and that creates what she calls as the biological family, and that is what is creating dependence or inequality. Okay. So the third idea is of difference feminism. So difference feminism does not talks about specifically so critical about the family, but they are saying that at every different cultures, at every different societies, the inequality will be of a different type. We cannot completely say that family is always exploitative. It depends. But they have highlighted an idea of what is called as the anti-social family. So this idea was given by Mary McIntosh. What is this anti-social family? So she says that the family generates a feeling of what is called as anti-social. Means it creates a mindset that there is the life of the family is of utmost importance, and anybody who is means there cannot be a social relationship purer, stronger than family. So the family relation is the most important thing. Beyond this, there is nothing. Sociality means there is no social life. The life in the family. So we are trained, or that whatever you have to do it for your family. The family members come first. And specifically for the females, she has to take care of the family. So when she's not married, she has to keep up the honor of her family. Okay, so she has to follow the norms that has been imposed by the family on her. Maybe she has to upkeep the respect of her father. And after she is married, so she has to take care of the family of in-laws. सबसे बड़ी responsibility is both the family, means before the marriage also female has to take care of the respect of the family. After the marriage also she has certain responsibility that she has to keep up. And somebody who is kind of isolated from the family, in that case her life is considered to be meaningless. Okay, so if a female is not married, or if a female is without her husband, living without her husband, a single woman, in that case she might be, or her life might be considered to be wasteful, meaningless. So people would give example that what's the use of this much of money if you don't have the family members? What's the use of a female life? What's the use of that success being a CEO or director or whatever if you don't have the children, if you don't have the husband, or if you're not living with the family? There's no point. This is the idea that is being created by the family, that is anything outside family is of no use. This creates an idea of anti-social aspects. Whatever social, the purest, the strongest form of relationship exists only in the family itself. Okay, so these are certain perspectives related to family by different feminist groups, and that has kind of created changes in the family structures. Means the belief system has changed, due to which the belief in the sacredness of the family is no more same, no more similar. So as I've told you that 1950s, 60s, the majority of the scholars, they were following structural functionism, and they were always talking about the positive aspects of the family. There was hardly anyone who was talking about the dysfunctions of the family. But post 50s and 60s, there was a rise of scholars like Marxists and feminists who were very much prominent in highlighting the dysfunctions of the family, specifically how it is a tool that is used by the capitalist or the patriarchs to exploit the labor class or the women. Okay, and due to which the sacredness of the family was kind of questioned. And right now in the present time also, this has actually led to family being seen as more like a burden and a responsibility rather than something as a place where we do enjoy. Okay, so you all enjoy your family as a bachelor or a spinster. Okay, you feel like 2-3 days as a break. So for example, Diwali holidays or some holidays, you get a break and you go to your family members. You enjoy that time. But when asked, are you interested to make a family of your own? You say not no, means not now. Maybe I'm not mentally prepared. This is the common answer that you give. I'm not mentally prepared because you see it as a burden. You see it as a responsibility. Okay, and it's mainly because of our education system, or the sacredness of the family is currently under question mark. Plus, you enjoy being a part of joint family. Okay, you view it as an ideal, but when only and only if you are getting some kind of benefits out of it. Means it's acting as a cushion to fall upon, and that's why. But at a time when you will have to perform certain duties, or maybe you have to sacrifice things. Means suppose one of your brother, God forbid, but one of your brother is a very average student and is not able to secure a very good job, decent paying job, earns very minimal amount of money, and somehow you got to become an IAS officer, and who's earning like in millions. Okay, but the joint family means the property has to be shared. Your brother is doing nothing and consuming whatever you are earning. At that point of time, the family which was seen as an advantage, or which you were seeing as an advantage, will seem to be a burden. Okay, and at that point of time, maybe you might start seeing this family as a burden, and you might want to break it. Okay, so it's because of these ideologies that have surfaced up post 60s that the sacredness of the family was questioned, and this has actually brought a lot of changes in the family, be it in the terms of size and structure, be it in terms of relationship between the family members, or be it in the terms of durability of family, whether the family is no more considered a stable entity, or the stability has eroded significantly. We'll talk about it, but just right. Feminist challenge the view that family life is becoming more egalitarian due to modernization. Family life is becoming more egalitarian due to modernization. They see family as an institution involving power relationships. All feminists agree that gender is socially constructed, and family is the most prominent institution that shapes gender. Family is most prominent institution that shapes gender. Right? First point, it socializes women into accepting the housewife role, as only possible or acceptable role for a woman. Second, it socializes girls to accept subservient roles, or subordinate roles within the family, while socializing boys that they are superior. Okay. There's like different branches or different schools of feminism. First, Marxist feminist. Use Marxist concept to see use Marxist concept to see exploitation of women as a key feature of family, as a key feature of family. The family as an institution stabilizes the capitalist class. It helps in production of new labors. It helps in production of new labors and also in ideological conditioning of them. Women work as unpaid labor. Okay. Next point. The support of family is a hidden tax. Support of family is a hidden tax on the wage earner. His wage buys labor power. His wage buys labor power of two people. It also weakens the bargaining power of the labor class. Second, radical feminist. Radical feminists see society as patriarchal. Radical feminists see society as patriarchal, and men, rather than capitalists, exploit women. The first form of stratification started within the family between male and female. Okay, right? Schuller Smith Firestone and the biological family. The biology of women creates dependency on men. This creates superiority complex in males. Which leads to subordination of female. Okay. Third, the difference feminism. I'm not explaining this, dictating it completely because we have covered it in stratification, the idea of biological family. Difference feminism by Mary McIntosh. She gave the idea of the antisocial family. Ideology of family destroys life outside family. Family ideal makes everything else seem pale and unsatisfactory. Family members are so much involved that life outside the family is seen as shallow. And meaningless. This impacts the professional choices and growth of women. Professional choices means what kind of job she's going to choose, and also professional growth of the women. Now, let's see how this feminist movement has impacted the family. So first we see the structure of the family and size of the family. So you will see that feminist movement has drastically reduced the size of the family. So what kind of things are happening here? Reduction in size of the family, but how? First, by promotion of contraception. Okay. Second, abortion. Okay. So size has been reduced by this. अब एक unofficial report है, means there are certain blogs. I'm not quoting any official data, but just to tell you that this is also a kind of data that is coming up that says feminist movement has a dysfunction also. It has kind of increased female infanticides. Very strange, isn't it? Feminist है और female infanticide को increase कर रहा है कैसे? Actually, the reason is that people in the urban area, they do not want to have many children. The normal family size has reduced to say one child. हम दो हमारे एक. And in that case, where they are choosing specifically a male child and a female. When they want to have one child, they prefer a male over a female. Since they are not ready to bear the burden of two child, they want a one child, they will go for sex selective abortions also. And I'm not quoting any official data. Okay, it's not nowhere, and it will never come also, because you know that a particular movement might get completely discredited due to this. But this is a reason. This is what we are seeing, that even the educated women who want a kind of liberty, means they do not want that their pregnancies and their all that stuff should impact their professional life. So they will reduce or they will not go for recurrent pregnancies. But whenever they go, or at least one child, they would prefer to have a baby boy rather than a girl. Okay, and this is something that has been reported. अगर आपके कुछ friends हैं who are working in gynae department, and you will see, or you can ask them that majority of the women who basically go for sex selective abortions, they are the ones who are well educated. ऐसा नहीं है कि वो they are not that educated or they are like belonging to say poor background and all that stuff. Majority of the people who go for sex selective abortions are educated and wealthy. Wealthy ka reason I can tell you that Haryana, one of the most wealthy state, means a particular community caste, they have gained a lot of wealth post Green Revolution, and also due to the built up of that NCR region that has increased the property rate. So Gurgaon, that was a kind of banjar zameen hua karti thi. Means today this piece of land will cost you say crores, and at that point of time acres of such land was nobody was ready to pay even thousands for it. And it's not something I'm talking about 100 years back. It's hardly 20-25 years back the status of Gurgaon. Okay, and then Delhi Gurgaon highway, and then that tax free excise free zone. And uske baad se Gurgaon, Sonipat, Panipat and all, they gained a lot of traction. They were able to attract a lot of investors, and the property rate shot up very highly. And now, like, there is a story also. I can tell you that this happened when I was getting my doing my class 12th. So then there was a Jat farmer who visited Jaguar showroom in his tempo, and he was having a big जो vessel होता है जिसमें दूध वगैरह लेके जाते हैं. So he asked that Jaguar वाले को कि भैया ये Jaguar लेनी है. Not so politely, but yes. So so that showroom owner, he basically said भैया आप afford नहीं कर पाओगे, अब जाओ. So he brought that milk vessel and just poured all the wealth, means जितना पैसा था उसमें से निकाल के बोले जितने पैसे की गाड़ी है वो रख ले, बाकी मेरे को वापस उसमें डाल देना. And this is the thing that happened in Gurgaon in every family. But now they are still practicing, or there was a significant rise in female infanticide post the rise in wealth in Gurgaon, sorry, in Haryana. One reason that has been cited that people do not want their property to be divided post marriage because they will have to pay a large amount of wealth as dowry. So that would lead to division in the property, and that would mark a loss of status in the society. And due to which they decided to go for female infanticide. Not the first girl, but every subsequent girl would be killed, or feticide also. So increase in wealth was a reason, means one of the reasons that they do not want, in order to maintain the status, they practice in female infanticide. This is one of the reasons that has been quoted in several studies also. Okay, and there are several other reasons that despite getting wealthier, the sex ratio became poorer and poorer in Haryana, and it has started to improvise significantly post that Beti Bachao Beti Padhao Andolan. Means not that significantly, but yes, definitely an attitudinal change has been observed, and that is visible in the data also post 2014. चलो कुछ तो अच्छा किया है, right? So structure and size of the family, that is reduction through contraception and abortion, was actually seen. Now also there was, it's in structure only, increase in no fault divorce. So there is a data that was through BBC in Britain, that according to a BBC report, 258% increase in divorce rate in last 2 decades in Britain. Okay, so the divorce rates have shot up. Why? Because the sacredness of the family, or the importance of the family, has been sidelined, or it basically has reduced significantly, and that has kind of whenever the woman is empowered, she does not need to compromise a bit in order to retain the family, or in order to maintain that family. So she does not see as a compulsion, and that's why the divorce rates have shot up. Now there is a scholar, an African scholar. I don't know how to pronounce the first name, so your wish, I know you. Okay, so he basically says that new structures of family have evolved due to feminist movement. That is single parent and skip generation families have come up. Single parent means where only mothers are living with their children. Okay, divorced women with their child are living, and also skip generation, that is since mother and father both are in pursuit of their career goals. So what they would do is they would leave their children to their elder ones, maybe the grandparents, and who will be taking care of the children at their native place, while mother and father may be working at some other place. Okay, in order to in pursuit of their career goals. So here woman has got a better chance to basically pursue her career aspirations. Now the family is no more and seen as an obstacle. So alternative forms of families have come up due to this. This one, that is the skip generation family. Now next is कितने होते हैं ऐसे, अब उसको भी काउंट कर लो. मैंने कब बोला कि मोस्ट ऑफ द केसेस में, मतलब आई जस्ट सेड कि डिवोर्स है, बट यस देयर कैन बी अदर केसेस आल्सो, अडॉप्टेड बेबीज आल्सो, बट दीस आर वेरी लिमिटेड केसेस. ओके, कि अ वुमन अडॉप्टिंग अ चाइल्ड ओनली, मतलब इसे मूवीज में ज्यादा होता है, कि रियलिटी में मींस हु इज अ सिंगल एंड वुड अडॉप्ट समबडी आउट ऑफ द ब्लू कि चलो तुम मेरे साथ रहो, तुम मेरे बेटे हो, ऐसा कहां होता है रियलिटी में. इट्स वेरी रेयर सिनेरियो. ठीक है, नाउ यू विल सी द intra-family relationship that is happening in the, or the change in the intra-family relationship. So here you will see that role of women in decision making is increasing. Okay, be it the economic decision, be it related to the family, outside the family, whatever decisions, the family collective decision making is increasing, and women has got a say in it. Okay, plus reduction in cases of domestic violence. Cases of domestic violence have reduced significantly. Now there might be some data that might be contrary to it. So कुछ लोग बोलेंगे कि according to NCRB data, domestic violence cases have increased significantly. number of cases being increased doesn't mean domestic violence has also increased. Actually, the women are now empowered. They are reporting these cases. Earlier, such kind of phenomena used to happen, but it never saw the light of the day. It never was reported. ठीक है, अभी वो रिपोर्ट किया जा रहा है. So, for example, आप इसे यूपी से कितने लोग हैं? यूपी. So when Yogi government came in UP in 2017 पहले सरकार बनी थी ना. So 2017, you will see that in the next 2 years, the cases related to molestation of girls increased significantly. But if you ask a girl in UP, one thing that Yogi government did properly was that to ensure that every girl is able to go to the college and all the molesters, anti-Romeo squad बनाया था उन्होंने. So all the molesters would be not arrested, but they will be given appropriate treatment by the government. Okay, whatever is required. So you will see, but as per the data, which several news channels were criticizing, that the cases registered for molestation was increased. But before it, what actually used to happen was that even if the girl dares to write or file a complaint, the police will never register it also. Okay, and that's why many of the cases, most of the cases, they were left unreported. Now, the police were given proper instructions that if there is a single case regarding molestation, you should immediately register it and take action on it. And that's why there was a high shot up of the cases. Okay, but once that case has been registered, the criminal complaint has been registered, and बहुत सारे ऐसे रोमियोस को arrest किया गया, and they were given appropriate treatment by the government. And उसके बाद से you will never find, means I have personally seen that my sister was not able to go to her college because of all these cases. Okay, it was very difficult, and every now and then there used to be some kind of tension or some kind of fights that would happen between college guys, degree college में, and it's mainly because of some these kind of issues. Now, this is the same with domestic violence also. When the woman feels empowered, the cases which were left unreported or which she used to accept as a norm, that even if the husband hits once or twice, that hardly means anything. Means it's something that's a norm. क्या वो उसने हाथ उठा दिया तो? Okay, so you have seen that movie Thappad, right? So that was on this idea only, that it's a norm. अगर मार दिया तो मार दिया, क्या बड़ी बात होगी? Or it should be escalated. So whenever the woman will feel empowered, such kind of cases will definitely short up. But that means eventually the incidences of domestic violence will reduce significantly, and that has happened due to rise of feminism or awareness that has been created by feminist movement. Okay, now the third thing that has happened is choice of children. That means the woman has equal say that when she wants to get pregnant or when she wants to give birth to a baby. It's not the family or the male who will decide when and how, but the woman also has an equal say in decision of when the birth should be given and at what occasion and how many children they are planning for. यहाँ पे completely male या family would not be controlling. So choice of children, woman has a greater say in it. So the major reason is the education and also awareness that is created by feminist movement. Okay, so I'll just quote some NFHS 5 data that was released very recently. This was analyzed by a scholar named Sunita Bose. So just like this, okay, they have clearly highlighted these aspects in NFHS 5 data. अभी बहुत कुछ टाइम पहले 3-4-5 महीने पहले आया है. So just like decline in total fertility rate, that is below replacement level. Decline in total fertility rate below replacement level, that is 2 से कम हो गया है. Sex ratio at birth increased significantly. Sex ratio at birth increased significantly. Proportion of women using family planning methods have increased significantly. Okay, and use of abortion, contraception, and surrogacy. Okay, now the third change that has been seen in relation to the function of the family. Okay, it's basically where men are taking or contributing equally in child care. Not equally, but significantly in child care. Okay. Plus, women role in child care has been supported by several organizations and also has been mandated by the law that वो कौन सी leave है, that is maternal leave. Okay, that is 26 weeks of maternal leave that is assigned to them by the government. In fact, this 26 weeks is one of the highest in the world that Indian government recognized. Means in various other countries, it's too big a number. That is approximately 6 months. Indian government has recognized that's a very big number considering the status or patriarchal status of India. Even several developed countries do not have this 26 weeks of maternal leave. Okay, very few countries they have a maternal leave higher than this. Some Scandinavian countries are there, but very less. So means India is one among the top. So, and now there is a demand for paternal leave as well, and which, yes, there is a demand that maternal leave, because several feminists they criticize this maternal leave policy as government's recognition that the child care activity is solely the domain of female. Okay, and that's why they have demanded that if you want to basically really empower women, you should also ensure paternal leave mandatory, because they say that if you make maternal leave mandatory, it's a good step. Definitely, yes, a good step. You've seen from one light that women they will be getting 6 months to take care of the child, and 1 month before or 2 months before delivery, and 3-4 months later. But they will be seen as a burden by the employer. Any married woman will be seen as a burden by the employer. Why? Because the employer has to pay 6 months of salary for which he cannot demand any work. So जिसकी वजह से women employment will reduce significantly. Or only in those industries where the work can be done from home, the woman will be employed, and बाकी जगह पे women employment will decrease significantly. So feminists are saying that in turn this might kind of weaken women's economic position. So for that they are demanding that if you want to make it gender neutral and if you want to really empower women, give exactly the same number of leaves for men. Okay, that is paternal leave. So it's क्या होगा कि that first that both men and women, it's a government recognition that both men and women equally should participate in child care, and second they will be equally burdensome for the employer. So in that case the judgment has to be done on the merit कि किसको retain करना है, किसको हटाना है. Okay, ऐसे तो women will definitely seem as a burden. for 2 pregnancies means 1 year of free salary for which the employer cannot demand any work. Okay, so these are some of the changes that have been seen due to feminism on family. Okay, now we'll talk about joint family. There is one article, EPW article आप लोग क्लास के बाद एक बार ले जाना, so I'll just discuss the summary of it in the class and just read it once you go home. Okay, joint class के बाद आप लोग ले लो. So joint family, there is a big debate that is going on whether joint family is a kind of institution that is dying और जो खत्म हो रहा है, or it's an institution that is strengthening, or is there some other alternative? Okay, so we'll see first what is a joint family. So the site definition that is given by Iravati Karve, the site it, joint family is a group of people who generally live under one roof, who eat cooked food at one hearth, that is one kitchen, hold property in common, and participate in common worship, and often and are related to each other as some particular type of kindred, that means relatives. So there is some activist in our group who is saying India need beti bachao, beti padhao and beti kamao. Good, बढ़िया है, एग्जाम में अच्छा quotation बना रखे, मतलब मोदी जी से ज्यादा इंस्पायर्ड हैं ये लोग. So here in this definition, Iravati Karve has highlighted the properties of joint family. What basically constitutes a joint family? The first feature is, she says, commensality. That is, they will be eating food together, they have a joint kitchen first. Second, common residence. The third will be common property. Next, shared ritual bonds. So in which majority will be like a common deity, maybe Kul Devta, Kul Devi, or they would be participating in pleasing the spirits of the ancestors, like observing Shraddh, ancestor worship. And the last one is cooperation and sentiment of oneness. So there might be financial cooperation or some other kind of cooperation that will be among the members of the joint family. So commensality means food, related to food, eat food together, common residence, live under the same roof. Third, that is common property, the joint ownership of the property will be there, ritual bonds will be there, and finally a sentiment, the cooperation and sentiment will be there of oneness, that they believe that they are one. Okay, now this is the ideal definition of what is a joint family, and many of us, we believe in joint family, we believe we are living in a joint family, but exactly speaking, we might not be following all the properties like this. So many of us believe in joint family. I asked some people, means last in few class back, कि कितने लोग joint family में रहते हैं, then when I asked that who are living or eating this food or having the same kitchen, shared kitchen, so this is something that is no more existing. They might be living under the same roof, same house, but the kitchen might have been separated. Okay, but everything else is still joint. Okay, so these are the features that Iravati Karve highlighted about the traditional joint family. Now let's see the prevalence of joint family in India. So there is a scholar, Pauline Kolinda. So she is a very famous anthropologist who have actually done a lot of village studies in India. We'll be studying about her in paper 2, Pauline Kolinda. इनकी बहुत famous case study है, I don't remember the name of the village. जहाँ पे she talks about how a particular caste group, they basically talk, in order to mobilize or in order to proclaim their status to be Kshatriya or Brahmin, so how they created a narrative. So they created a narrative that we are Brahmins, we were originally the Brahmins, and one day our ancestors were going outside the village, and what they saw, that there was a cow that was sinking in a marsh, that is Daldal mein, and they tried to pull out that cow with holding her tail, and they were unable to do so, and ultimately the cow died. Some of the villagers who were passing by, they saw that our ancestors are holding the tail of a dead cow, और उसके बाद उन्होंने बोला कि ये गाय को मार के खाने वाले लोग हैं, and that's why we were relegated to the status of Dalits. But that was a false narrative. Actually, we were truly the Brahmins, and we want to claim our status to be Brahmin, or we want to be recognized as a Brahmin. Okay, so I don't remember the name of the village. South में कोई village है जहाँ पे इन्होंने ये caste mobility study की है. So Pauline Kolinda, she studied the prevalence of joint family by observing majority of the studies that were given by other scholars. She studied 76, or she compiled the data of 76 studies, and she came to a conclusion that joint family is more a characteristic of higher caste. Okay, higher caste में ज़्यादा prevalent है compared to the people of lower caste. And in India, say before our independence, there was a kind of symmetry. I have told you symmetry से asymmetry हो गया. That is, higher caste was high in class and high in power also. So higher caste was usually rich only. And post independence, this caste and class, they were not concentrated at one place. So it's not necessary that the Brahmin will always be rich. Okay, so here she says that it's a feature of higher caste, that joint family. And in lower caste, you will find that joint family will be an economically foolish decision because of lack of source of income. So they say it's not possible for them to live together, although they might idealize. And whenever a lower caste tries to mobilize its way up or tries to proclaim the status of a higher caste, one change that you will see in them is that they will transit from a nuclear family to a larger joint family. जब ये caste अपने status को increase करने की कोशिश करेगा, incidences of joint family will increase there. Okay, so just like this, by comparing 76 studies, which included family types across villages, Kolinda outlined Colinda outlined pattern of prevalence of joint families. She highlighted that joint family is more a characteristic of higher caste, and least prevalent among economically poor and untouchables. Second point, there is regional difference in proportion of joint family. It is highly prevalent in Gangetic Plain. Next, Central India, Western Rajasthan, and Maharashtra. Okay. Third thing she pointed out, very prevalent, that there is a pattern or there is a developmental cycle that the joint family undergoes. That is, it might break up. A family might grow very big. It will break up into several small families. They will further grow. Then they will break up. So basically, there is a cyclic thing that is going on. That is, joint family breaks into nuclear family rises to joint family, again breakups. So there is a pattern developmental cycle that a joint family experiences. Okay. So a joint family hai, it will break into nuclear families. These nuclear families will again grow into joint families, which will further break into nuclear families, and so on and so forth will happen. Okay. So there is a pattern or a cyclical development that every family experiences. Okay. However, she says that the idealness of the joint family still lives. That even a particular family might become momentarily nuclear, they always aspire to be a joint family. So for the moment, a family might break up with a larger family because maybe due to space issue, maybe due to some kind of economic conflict. But no matter what, if a man might take away his 3 children, but he will always want his 3 children to get married and live under the same roof. That idealness is still alive. Okay, just like this. Every family experiences a pattern cycle of rearrangement. However, the idealness of joint family still lives. Okay. So now let's see the debate that what is the current status of joint family. So is the joint family alive? Is the joint family declining? It's something else. So there are a group of scholars who say that joint family is a dying institution. Okay. So these scholars are Eileen Ross, Ram Mehta, and F.G. Bailey. So they say that joint family is a dying institution because it's a kind of, it does not fit into the modern value system. It does not fit into the modern society. So they say joint family will disintegrate, and there will be a time when there will not be any joint family because modern value system cannot support ideology or an institution like joint family. So Ellen Ross, so she conducted a study on 157 Hindu families in Bangalore, and what she found was that 60% of the families were nuclear in nature. Okay, so saying that iske baad and the rate, or they prefer to live nuclear than joint. Based on this study, the conclusion was that the joint family cannot survive in urban environment. वो survive ही नहीं कर सकती. Remember the idea of target parsons? So the isolated nuclear family, that is industrial setup में, in order to align with the economic system, the family has to break up because it requires geographical mobility. And in geographical mobility, it won't be possible for the entire joint family to migrate from one place to another due to change in the jobs or wherever the skills of the individuals are required. In that case, joint family is a kind of not a feasible idea. So isolated nuclear family is the result of industrialization. So they are also saying the same thing, that modern value system cannot support the joint family. Okay. Now there are other groups of scholars who say just opposite. They say it is not declining, but in fact strengthening. Okay. One scholar is K.M. Kapadia. So he studied 1,162 families in Gujarat. And he says that in urban area, the number of nuclear families were more. In rural area, for every 2 nuclear families, there were 3 joint families. So proportion of joint families was greater than the proportion of nuclear families in rural area. Urban area, the size of the family was definitely smaller. But what he says, जैसे कि आप लोग हो, आप urban area में रह रहे हो, but has it made you a nuclear family? Suppose you will get married and settle in some place wherever you will be posted with your husband, wife, or the children, and your parents might not be living with you. But does it make you a nuclear family? Huh? The bond is still intact. It's only the kitchen that has separated. Have you separated your property? That this land belongs to me, this will belong to my brother, or this will belong to my sister? No. There is a common property still available. Means if you see the properties, this is no more because you're living in a different place. This does not exist. Okay, but this exists. Common property. This exists. Ritual bonds. Okay, you will gather together in certain festivals, certain occasions. You will be together. Okay, and then this cooperation and sentiment, will it be there? Yes, you definitely recognize yourself to be a part of the same family despite living. So it's the economic circumstances that has made you shift from a place, but that has not clearly broken up the bond. In fact, that strengthens the bond. Suppose if your brother comes to your place, maybe मान लो आप दिल्ली में रह रहे हो, and your brother or your some relative, maybe your uncle, chacha, he visits Delhi for some treatment. Say there are good hospitals like Gangaram or Medanta and all. So he comes here. So will you be providing some kind of assistance or shelter to that person? Will you be moving with them? Definitely yes. आप ही करोगे. So and ऐसा तो नहीं है कि आप वो दूसरी family होगी, they will take care of it. They'll come and they'll stay at your place. Second, suppose if your brother comes or if your brother's children might be coming to Delhi for say civil services classes. So will you be providing them in, suppose if you get posted in Agmat Cattle Mill and you are in Delhi. So will you let them take a PG and live alone? You'll definitely ask them to stay with you so that they get better food, better environment, more luxury, isn't it? So every bond is still intact. Only the economic circumstances have made you shift to some other place, but the bonds that connects you are still there. So can you say that the joint family has broken up? No, joint family has not broken up. But in fact, what Pauline Kolinda says, that joint family is in fact strengthening in urban area. Why? Because of two reasons. First reason, that it helps in social mobility. How in social mobility? Suppose there are 4 brothers. एक family में 4 भाई थे, and they all now live separately. Now they all are earning say 10 lakhs per year. Per annum उनकी package है, and they all want to buy a car for their family. If they buy it separately, they will hardly be able to afford a Wagon R. 3-4 लाख रुपए की गाड़ी है, वो afford कर पाएंगे based on their salary profile. But suppose if they live together, in that case, if they can afford a Fortuner also. Are you able to understand this? Even because a lot of common expenditure can be curtailed, and if they live together, so this joint family might help them curtail a lot of expenditure. They might be able to rise in the hierarchy. अब Wagon R से चलेंगे तो that is lower middle class, and then moving by Fortuner definitely. भले उस Fortuner में 15 लोग बैठ के जाएंगे, doesn't matter. But ultimately, it's a status symbol of a higher class or upper middle class, isn't it? So this is what Pauline Kolinda says, that living together might help them rise in the hierarchy of social mobility. Sorry, hierarchy of the society. Okay, because a lot of common expenditure can be curtailed, and at the time it has been proven by certain census data also that the sizes of the family in the urban areas are increasing. The other reason for this is the space constraint. So buying a house in Delhi is not something very easy. Okay, so living together, अब मान लो फैमिली बड़ी हो गई, अब उस केस में ऐसा तो है नहीं कि भाई कहेगा चलो ठीक है मैं जाता हूँ कोई दूसरा घर खरीद लेता हूँ. Buying house is a kind of a costly affair here, so it's better they stay together. Okay, and that has it's more like a compulsion to stay together. Okay, so they are saying that joint family is kind of strengthening in nature rather than a dying institution. And then there is a third opinion that says that it's a process. That means that do not believe in unilinear movement of joint family to nuclear, but rather they say that it's a cyclical movement. That joint moves to nuclear, nuclear basically moves to joint. This is a kind of pattern of development. This is also supported by again Pauline Kolinda. So she highlighted that not all the nuclear families are of same type, and not all joint families are of same type. You will see that joint and nuclear families are existing in stages of continuum. So gradually the joint family will increase in strength. धीरे-धीरे एक particular maximum level तक पहुंचेगी. Then the number of members will start declining. It will reach to the stage of nuclear family, and gradually the members in the nuclear family will keep on increasing, which will ultimately then be qualified to be called as a joint family. And she highlights that there are total 11 types of family that exist in India, out of which 6 are joint and 5 are nuclear families in nature. And these are in a stage in continuum stages. ठीक है. So आप जब family को study कर रहे हो, you are just setting a moment that at that particular moment what is the status of that family. It might be a nuclear family, it might be a joint family. Okay, that is the processual view of the family. Okay, that is एक joint nuclear में बदलेगी और nuclear वापस से joint हो जाएगी. And what you are observing is only the status of a family at that particular moment. Okay, so this is the idea that joint. अब लेकिन there are few scholars who are talking outside this debate. One is saying, means they say that ये debate ही irrelevant है. अब India में case में they are saying that this debate is completely irrelevant. Why? Because nuclear family is a concept that is no more valid to India. Nuclear family is a concept that is valid for, or it's a logical concept for Western countries, not India. Why? So, for example, in Western countries, what happens is that mother and father give birth to a child, maybe 1 or 2 child they might be having, and after the graduation, or say after passing 10th or basic education, so say 18-19-year child starts living separately in the different quarters or different places, and they might start doing some kind of part-time jobs. Okay, and moreover, they do not feel any kind of obligation towards their parents or even to their brothers, sisters, and all, isn't it? ये जो Western culture में, that is American culture. So here, that nuclear family means completely nuclearity is there. The person detaches himself from the larger unit. Okay, with no rights and obligation. Neither the parents are in no obligation to serve the child after a certain age. They're not concerned कि मुझे अपने बेटे को education दिलानी है, or I have to prepare, I have to pay his fees for civil service preparation or something like that. No, it's complete detachment of the child and the parents. And they might meet up on some occasion, but that too not obligation, not an obligation, not something compulsory. But is it the case in India? Here, its nuclearity concept is not at all valid or applicable only. It's only because of the economic circumstances some people might move out of the family, but every other bond is retained. So India may, even if what you call as a nuclear family, that is some group of people living in Delhi as a family, husband, wife and children, they hardly qualify to be called as a nuclear family. Okay, why? Because they are living here only because of the economic compulsions. Yet all the bonds of the family are still retained. So during Diwali holidays they will be going home. Okay, or in any kind of financial or kind of emergency, they will be contributing towards the family fund. Okay, bhai behan ki shadi ho and all, they will be taking up the responsibility, sharing the financial burden as well. So this idea of nuclearity is not valid in India at all, and that's why ये debate ही लाना बेकार है कि joint versus nuclear. And the last one is a scholar named A.M. Shah, जिसका article I'll be sharing today. So A.M. Shah, he brings the idea of what is called as household to put his point or to say that this debate is irrelevant. So his household क्या होता है? Household means a common residence. It's a place where people live together and the people may be or may not be related to each other. So ऐसी जगह जहाँ पे खाना बनता हो, people share the space. So it's not necessary that the people might be relative or not relative. For example, three friends, they rent a flat, okay, that has a kitchen. That will be called as a household only. Okay, and he says कि अब जब census वाले आएंगे, so they will register it as a nuclear family. Okay, or maybe suppose if you and your partner and your children, they're living in Delhi, they're living in Delhi, so they might register it as a nuclear family, and then they will say that nuclear family numbers are rising in Delhi. That means, and they will automatically interpret that joint family numbers are declining, or the size of the family is declining, and joint family is moving towards nuclear family. तो बोले कि सबसे पहला इसमें एक प्रॉब्लम ये है कि they are first recognizing every household as a family. A household can be or cannot be a family. Moreover, a household can be a part of a larger family. It's not necessarily a complete family, but a sub part of a family. Okay. Second thing he says that everything in this debate starts with one assumption, and that assumption is that India में पहले सिर्फ joint families रही होंगी, isn't it? Are you getting this idea? तभी तो हमने बोला कि joint family nuclear family की तरफ move कर रही है. That means we have assumed that India earlier was a country or a state where only joint families existed, and due to changes in the society, the increase in nuclear family increased, or there was increased incidences of nuclear family, urbanization की वजह से or due to some other factors. But he collected some data in a village in Gujarat, that is Radhavanaj village. In this village, he says that he was able to access the data of 1800 census, some year in 1800 19th century. उनको census data मिला, and he saw that there was no case, I'm just reading it, no case of two or more married brothers living in a single household after the death of the parent. Once the parents have died, no two brothers lived together. They separated their houses. Also, only 5% of the total household had one or both parents and two or more married children living together. Only 5%. And 19% of the parents, 90% of the household, parents plus one married son living together. Okay, इसका मतलब क्या है? That is, even before the death of the parents, there were some household in which brothers separated themselves. इसका मतलब क्या है? That nuclear families used to exist in coexistence or used to exist together with the joint families in past also. And there was a kind of ratio, means both movements were happening. That is regressive as well as progressive. That is, some complex family might be breaking down, and also certain smaller families might be increasing in number. Maybe they might be getting promoted to the status of a joint family. So उसने बोला कि even when the families were living separate from each other in different places, they still retained their bond, and that's why they do not qualify to be called as nuclear families. They're still joint family, but with different places of residence. Rest every other feature of the joint family is still intact, and that's why it's better to call them as households rather than nuclear families. Okay, because nuclear family is not the appropriate term. They are not completely detached from the larger subunit of which they were a part, but they are household. So he says that this debate can be ended with an idea that joint family may have multiple households. So my brother living in some other place, I living in some other place, my parents living in some other place, we still are a joint family, but with multiple households. Okay, multiple places of residence, because all the bonds are still intact. The bonds are not broken up. Is it clear? So ये debate that there is a unilinear movement from joint to nuclear or so on and so forth, it's false, because a joint family can have multiple households. This is what A.M. Shah says. Clear है? Okay, and this is a question that can come in GS social issues also, GS paper 1. So there are three major opinions that you talk about in GS also. That is, joint family is dying, joint family is strengthening, and the third one is the cyclical view. That is, joint to nuclear and nuclear to joint. Just like this. The general view related to joint family is that it is disintegrating and a dying institution. It is disintegrating and a dying institution. This view is supported by Eileen D. Ross or A.D. Ross, Ram Mehta, and F.G. Bailey. Eileen Ross, Ram Mehta, and F.G. Bailey. Eileen Ross studied 157 Hindu families. Studied 157 Hindu families in middle and upper class in Bangalore. In middle and upper class in Bangalore. 60% of the families were nuclear. 60% of the families were nuclear. And there was a trend towards breakdown. There was a trend towards breakdown. F.G. Bailey studied Bissipada village in Odisha. F.G. Bailey studied Bissipada village in Odisha and suggested that joint family cannot survive due to divergent interest. Joint family cannot survive due to divergent interest and incomes of the family members. Second, joint family is strengthening. This view is supported by K.M. Kapadia, B.P. Agarwal, Milton Singer. K.M. Kapadia studied 1162 families of rural and urban areas in Gujarat. of rural and urban areas in Gujarat. In rural areas, for every two nuclear families, there were three joint families. In urban areas, the nuclear families were more in number. In urban areas, nuclear families were more in numbers. However, the families that have migrated to cities retain their bond. They are residentially separate, but do not function as an isolated unit. They retain kinship, orientation, and family ethics. BP Agarwal studied Marwadi community of Bombay, and observed continuity of joint family and caste system. Here, men go to city to earn, but finally retire in their respective villages. Milton Singer studied families in South, especially Chennai में उन्होंने study किया. So, and observed that joint family continues to be the norm. Among industrial entrepreneurs, despite change in their material condition, of living. Okay, third, right, cyclical view. Scholars like Pauline Colinda support a cyclical view of family. According to Colinda, no family remains nuclear or joint for a long time. The nuclear and joint family have to be viewed as continuum. This means that these two types of family, that is nuclear and joint, these two types of families have to be looked at as something interrelated in a developmental cycle. Okay. Last, right, idea of household and A.M. Shah. तो पहले आप household लिख लो. What is household? Household is a basic residential unit. Where economic production, consumption, inheritance, child rearing, and shelter are organized and carried out. The co-residents of household are not necessarily related biologically or by marriage. It is always task oriented and may consist family or a part of a family. Example: PG rooms, hostels, orphanages. Okay, right, next. It includes all the people who occupy a housing unit. Okay. Next point. A family consists of a householder and one or more other people living in same household who are related to householder by birth, marriage, or adoption. actually this can be one of the universal definition of a family. If you look at this statement, so it is the household perspective related to family. But if you talk about a universal definition, definitely you will find that this idea of family is more or less satisfy every condition of the family. So a householder living with his relatives or her relatives who are related to him by birth or by marriage or by adoption, and that constitutes a family. In almost every type of families will be covered here. Actually, अभी का realization है मुझे कभी पहले मैंने भी नहीं सोचा कि definition can be universal in nature. Okay, so you can quote this definition in the debate that we see. कि family की definition, this definition of the family will be universal. Okay, now A.M. Shah, just write A.M. Shah. refutes the debate of disintegration of joint family, as it is based on a flawed assumption. What is that flawed assumption? That is, ancient India was only having joint families. That's right, hyphen. That is, ancient India was village India and had only joint families. ठीक है. Second flawed assumption ये है. Second flawed assumption, right? On the contrary, urban areas are new and characterized by nuclear families. ठीक है. He studied A.M. Shah, Radhavanaj village in Gujarat, and highlighted that even in 19th century, joint and nuclear families coexisted in the village. Finally, he concludes that a joint family can have multiple households. आप ब्रैकेट में लिख सकते हो, these households not necessarily recognized as nuclear families. These households are not necessarily nuclear in nature or nuclear families. Okay, so this is the debate. It's not necessary that even if the family size gets smaller, they are nuclear in nature. They can just be labeled as households, which are still the part of joint family. And this idea was, A.M. Shah is very famous these days because COVID के time पे भी उनकी death हुई थी. Very famous scholar, A.M. Shah, Delhi University professor emeritus. So I believe कि paper 2 में कभी भी A.M. Shah के बारे में पूछा जा सकता है. Yes. Domestic groups and household, more or less they are similar in nature. Means आप अगर आप देखोगे तो usually you see that domestic group is more loosely used term. मतलब बहुत कम difference है ऐसा. It's more a loose term that is used for people living together. That's it. Okay. While household will have some kind of term, some types of norms. So you can say that the household is one type of domestic group. Simply, a domestic group can be like a hotel can also be said to be a domestic group. Okay, जहाँ पे मतलब कोई norms वगैरह नहीं है. Are you getting this idea? मतलब थोड़ा सा loose entity है ये, and this is at least when you are living in that house, you have to follow certain norms. Although you may be related, you may not be related, but there are certain norms that will be followed in that particular household, or there is some kind of a common purpose for which the people might come together. That is a household. It's not necessarily related, but yes, it is. But a domestic group में you can say a garage, okay, in which the workers are sleeping at night. तो उसको भी आप domestic group कहोगे. Or you can say a hotel, एक ढाबा है, wherein the waiters, after working there, they will be arranging their bed at that particular. So this is the place where they are just residing, that's providing them the shelter. अब कोई rules, कोई norms, and as such, no living conditions means कि आपको follow करना पड़ेगा. But in household, you can say it's more restrictive in nature compared to domestic group. ठीक है. अब उसका household का एक more restrictive nature comes to be what is called as the nuclear family. The norms become more stricter here, being a family. ठीक है. तो garage है, ढाबा वगैरह है, वहाँ पे people are sleeping. Okay, arranging their beds, they might be working there, they might be sleeping there. So that becomes a domestic group. Simply इसको domestic group कहा जाएगा. दोनों में domestic group and household में it's not necessary that the people might be biologically or kinship related to each other. It's not necessary. ठीक है. They may be, they may not be. तो जैसे कि आप लोग जब एक फ्लैट को रेंट में लेके रह रहे हो तो that will be considered as a household. ठीक है. But it's not necessary that the people living in that flat in 3 rooms or 2 BHK whatever they are related, blood related to each other. But still it will be considered as a household. Okay. And domestic group में भी ये necessary नहीं है. अब अगर आप उसको इस तरीके से देखो, कुछ नए टाइप के domestic group that are emerging right now, so you might find a nuclear family plus a servant living together. Okay. So ये भी एक टाइप का household है या ये भी एक टाइप का domestic group है. Means they are subset actually. Domestic group का subset है household and then household का subset है basically a family. Prevalent in class system as if. हाँ, मतलब मैंने कब बोला कि class system में मैं ये बताना चाह रहा हूँ कि this is ये जो family है plus servant, they can be this is a type of household. There can be n number of household. जैसे कि आपका जो flat है वो भी एक household ही है. But here there is a different type of household or domestic group that is coming up. Maybe family है, उसके साथ servant रह रहा है या 2 servant रह रहे हैं या फिर one family and a servant couple living there. So maybe husband and wife living together in that servant room. Okay, so that is, it will be not called as a family, but it will be preferred to be called as a household or a domestic group. समझ रहे हो कि not all the members are related to each other, but yet living together. Okay, anything else? So that's it for today. Thank you so much.